Quick Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers.
Woo! You scared, bro? Eliot Wolf, you are the Patriots de facto GM, but you're on audition. You're a temp. You just flailed around on the open free agent market, and now you have the 3rd overall pick. How you going to play this, buddy? Safe? You going to take the quarterback? Buys you time. You don't have to worry about someone like Drake May turning into Michael Jordan someplace else. If you don't take him, you just do what everyone's been doing for months. It's a safe thing. You know what takes guts, Eliot? It takes guts and brains. Admitting your roster situation is so bad you're not ready to add a quarterback. Telling everybody there's no Christmas because you got to pay the electricity and you got to pay for the groceries. Trading out takes guts and brains, and if the Patriots want to be the Jets, all they need to do is keep screwing up quarterbacks by putting them in bad situations. They already have one pelt up on the wall by actively screwing up Mac Jones. They can put another pelt on the wall by plunking a newbie into a rebuild. The team is not ready for a newbie. Eliot, are you afraid of missing out on a legend? The greatest legends, the legends who won more than anyone else, were taken in the 6th, the 3rd, and the 9th rounds. That's Brady, Montana, and Unitas. Okay? If the soil isn't fertile, Eliot, the legend won't grow. You don't have fertile soil. Phil, what do you think of that? I mean, I wrote something down here. Does it take more gumption, moxie, chutzpah, audacity, nerve, and fortitude to do what everyone says is not the thing to do?
I don't care about chutzpah. I don't care about moxie. I don't care about fortitude. I care about doing what's smart. And the smart thing is to add a great quarterback to a team that needs a quarterback. And if you think that Drake May or Jaden Daniels, whoever falls to you at 3, is a great quarterback, Tom, you cannot pass. I don't care if you don't think the roster is ready. Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Troy Aikman, John Elway, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford. There's a number of great quarterbacks, not all won Super Bowls, but really, really good players that you'd be perfectly happy with at 3. They don't have to be Johnny Unitas, that got through bad situations because they had moxie. I'm looking for chutzpah in the quarterback, not in the de facto GM. All
right, you can be as chutzpah as you want. Baker Mayfield, plenty of chutzpah. Couldn't dig out in Cleveland. Let's get to the game plan. Maybe not. See what I did there? The dirty truth about top 3 quarterbacks, a free agent flatline from the Patriots, and of course your polls and comments. But now we bring you Quickfire. It's presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Let's get after it. We have a tweet from Pro Football Focus talking about free agency so far. It's got the Patriots with a B+ grade. Meanwhile, Kurt Warner. Excuse me, it's my bad. Additions and retentions through free agency. Here we go so
far. Did they get Kurt Warner?
They did not get Kurt Warner. He had fumble problems anyway. Here's the guys they retained on the right-hand side. You got your Henry, you got your Onwenu, you got your Uche, you got your Jennings, and you have your safety, Kyle Duggar. He's been retained as well. Here's the guys on the left. It's not half bad, Phil. They didn't get the guys they were looking for at wide receiver and left tackle, but you can't downgrade. I see why the B+ came about.
Yeah, I get it too. I mean, you couldn't go through this offseason without making sure that you retain Micah Onwenu. Hunter Henry, same deal. I would put those guys into critical categories based on just how bare those positions would be if you weren't able to retain those guys. I think what you look at, though, is the amount of cap space they had, Tom. $100 million to spend. The fact that they haven't been able to add upgrades at other positions to ensure that the talent around the quarterback that they might take at number 3 overall is a little bit better, that's a disappointment.
I agree with you entirely. It's just when PFF put out their rankings of free agents, they had Onwenu as the 3rd best tackle out there, and they had Hunter Henry as the 2nd best tight end. So retention there helped their grade. Meanwhile, here's Ian Rappaport weighing in on Mike Onwenu. A note. He's going to be moving to right tackle, and they're going to lock him in there. Sources say, perhaps Mike himself. What's your line, Phil? What's the Patriots' offensive line going to look like left to right, left tackle, obviously, TBD. But if everyone plays, it's not a complete sieve.
I've only got 60% of the line that I could even tell you about right now that's going to be ready to go week 1. and nobody on the left side. Right now, I don't know who your left tackle is. I'm not even sure who your left guard is. Cole Strange is still on the team, of course, but he injured his knee, ended his season. Is he going to be ready to go? He's been all kinds of banged up over the course of the last year or so. And Tom, when he's been on the field, he hasn't been very good. So David Andrews at center, I feel good about. I feel pretty good about Sidy Sow at right guard, and I feel good about Michael Winnow at right tackle. After that, I have no idea.
Cole Strange can't be a workman-like left guard in the National Football League.
He can be if he's on the field, Tom. Is he on the field?
Stop yelling at me. Let's get to Kurt Warner. Speaking of people that you don't want to yell at, because he'll go right up one side of your head and down the other. Drake May is interesting because he's big, he's strong, he's got the big arm, but there's a level of inconsistency with him throwing the football. And that always worries me. There's some things there that concern me just from a consistent standpoint. His technique in the pocket, and it's been just about every tape I've watched where he just misses what I call layups. Throws in front of him, and he just wildly misses those throws, 4, 5, 6 times a game. And this is what I'm talking about with Drake May. Maybe not in terms of there's a lot of polish that needs to be put on a player that you're going to say can be transcendent and can elevate everyone and get you back to being a playoff contender.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask. He's 21 years old, though, and he does have a ton of physical talent. He reminds me a little bit of, Tom, Josh Allen light. Josh Allen had a ton of questions coming out of the draft. Could he be consistent enough? Did he have any idea where the football was going when it left his hand? He got better over time. And I'll go all the way back to the early 90s if you want me to, Tom. When Ron Wolf sent a first-round pick to Atlanta for a second-year, second-round pick in Brett Favre, whose talent needed to be, quote-unquote, harnessed. That's how Ron Wolf put it at the time. He still made a massive investment in the guy because he saw the talent there. He just knew it needed to be coached up. If you see that in Drake May, I think it's really difficult to pass on.
Do we see that in Drake May? I know you were just a tot, but you saw Brett Favre throw. You saw his arm. One of the best that's really ever been in the game in terms of outright power. I don't know if Drake May has a superpower like that.
No, he probably doesn't have that kind of arm, but it's really strong already. And again, he's 21. Does it get a little bit stronger? Does he get better as a runner? Does he get bigger physically and stronger physically so that you can use him more as a runner, which helps elevate his floor? I just look at today's game, guys who can throw off platform, who do have strong arms, who are athletes, who are smart and tough and can help elevate the level of their teammates by being the kind of people that they are. Drake May seems to check a lot of those boxes.
All right, you mentioned throw-off platform. You mentioned leader. J.J. McCarthy is a guy who is starting to get some wind in his sails. Here's a guy, Thor Nystrom, talking last week on the Patriots Talk podcast about J.J. McCarthy and why it might not just be passing on May if Daniels and Caleb Williams go 1 and 2. It would be passing on J.J. McCarthy, who our guy Thor loves.
But what I love most about his game and the translation to the NFL, it's throwing on the run. He is special at that. He's a guy who keeps his eyes up. He keeps the upper body cocked to throw the entire time with his legs under him. He always has his senses about him, knows where the pass rushers are and everything like that. Does a good job manipulating the pocket before he starts moving. But once he starts moving, he gets even more dangerous and doesn't lose any accuracy whatsoever on the move because of this, because he takes his mechanics with him.
It's an absolute ode to J.J. McCarthy, was delivered by Thor last week. By the end of it, I'm looking at it and saying, man, he's faster, more quick, and throws better on the run than Drake May. The only thing is he doesn't necessarily fit the suit. And Drake May has been a de facto number 2 pick since last August by default almost.
Yeah, I think J.J. McCarthy, is going to end up being a top 5 guy, Tom. It would not stun me whatsoever, and this was something that I heard at the Combine weeks ago now, is that you might see quarterbacks go off the board at 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think it's just a question of which order they go in and which teams are taking those guys. But J.J. McCarthy is in that conversation, even though there are games you can go through from this past season where he's barely cracking a dozen attempts. And that would scare me a little bit. The situation that he's in, talk about being put into a good situation. Does that ever mask how good a player really is? Jimmy Garoppolo, I think his skill set was masked a little bit by the phenomenal situation that he was in San Francisco. They gave him a massive deal, and then a few years later, they realized he wasn't worth it. So that, to me, is a little bit of the concern with J.J. McCarthy. Was it almost too easy for him, Tom, at Michigan because the situation there was so good?
Yeah, and Thor's counter to that was they were blowing teams out by so much he couldn't be throwing. Meanwhile, we asked you guys a question. We go to From the Stands right now. put out a poll today on X. It said, what's the best guts, brains move for the Patriots at number 3? What's the hardest to do? What's the smartest to do? Stay put and take the quarterback, 66% of you. Meanwhile, 24.3 said trade down and take the picks. 9.5 said stay put and take the wide receiver. It would take some fortitude to do that. Meanwhile, Jared says no one's going to be mad about taking a quarterback 3, even if he doesn't become a franchise guy. They take the swing is what matters. Now, if they traded the pick and he becomes the guy somewhere else, oh boy. And I say sometimes that's a false equivalency. If Daniels falls to 3, take him. I agree, LV. I'd rather than trade down, use 11 on a tackle, 23 on a wide receiver, and 34 on Penix Jr. If Penix doesn't work out, you get 2 first-rounders next year to get a franchise guy. I wouldn't buckle it up that quickly again with a quarterback next year, but I get what you're saying. 70% for quarterbacks makes me extremely confident in the trade down. QB is a reaction to the Mac Jones era. These aren't Luck or Burrow prospects available, and I doubt Wolf is going to stake his job on one of them when he can get a sure haul. I agree. Lions, Dolphins, Texans, all good examples. Meanwhile, take the quarterback and get him a legit wideout. The defense is good enough to win you games with a competent offense. Felipe, thoughts?
I would just say C.J. Stroud was not thought to be Luck or Burrow. Josh Allen was not thought to be Luck or Burrow. Lamar Jackson was not thought to be Luck or Burrow. There are other good quarterbacks out there. You don't have to be a generational guy to be worthy of that 3rd overall pick. I think people have a little bit of PTSD from watching this Patriots team build its offense over the course of the last few years. They say if you drop a quarterback in here, it's going to look like garbage for 3 years, and then what's the guy going to turn into? It doesn't have to be that way. You can actually add pieces. I know the Patriots haven't done it in a while. You can add really good offensive pieces around the quarterback in relatively short order, helps everybody look better.
I think
it is possible.
I think the PTSD exists because of having watched right close in the AFC East, teams like the Bills flail around the top 10 and 20 over and over at quarterback, and of course the Jets with Darnold and Zach Wilson. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Coming up after the break, we'll go deep on these quarterbacks who have been drafted since 2017, high in the draft. And how did they work out? Is it nature or nurture? Growth Potential, brought to you by Dr. Matthew Presley. Look younger, feel younger, get your hair back with Leonard Hair Transplant Associates. Meanwhile, here's Mel Kiper. He did a mock draft, as he is often doing at this time of year. And he had Drake May going 3rd to the Patriots, but he said, what I'm saying is, if a team that fell in love with the 3rd quarterback in this class offered a bevy of draft capital, wouldn't New England have to consider moving down? That would give the organization multiple first-round picks to improve the entire roster this year and in 25. This is not a team likely to compete this season. Vegas, Denver, Minnesota, they could all be options. Sliding down a few spots would still allow the Patriots to add a rookie starter, a receiver, or offensive tackle. Both positions are deep in round 1. Which leads us right into my slant. Watch out! And it's all about situation, folks. How much does it matter when you're a quarterback? I did a deep dive on this using approximate value, and it's a metric you can find on Pro Football Reference, and I think it is the best one to use when just measuring how simply good a player is, okay, relative to the amount he's played and relative to the rest of the league. It translates. So, check this out. Strap in, pay some attention, and this is fun. These are the quarterbacks drafted in the first 2 rounds since 2017. I also threw in a few outliers to add context. Here it is. This is the upshot. These are the guys and where they were taken in the 2nd column and their average approximate value. Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Hurts, Herbert. None of them taken in the top 5. You get a couple of guys, C.J. Stroud with 1 year under his belt, and then Kyler Murray, who's been productive. Trevor Lawrence also is a 1st overall pick. Joe Burrow hasn't played a lot, so he's further down than you would expect. A lot is a relative term. He's missed a lot of games. Deshaun Watson, he had back-to-back excellent years, 3 in a row actually. Tua. Then you see Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, and Baker Mayfield. We're still only halfway through this list. Look at all these guys, though. Baker Mayfield's the number 1 overall pick. Then you see these players starting to show up a little bit later in the draft. These are reaches in the 1st round. But watch this. You're going to see a fleet. 1 and 2 at the bottom of that. Then you see 2, 2, 4, 3. This is going all the way down to the end. You got Darnold, Wilson. You have Anthony Richardson. Again, don't hold that against him. He hasn't played a ton. He had a shortened year last year. But then you see Trey Lance and Josh Rosen, both top 10 picks, way down there. And just as an indicator of Bailey Zappi and his career AD, it's not awesome. The upshot is trading down in the top 5 if you have a bad situation is less sexy, but way, way, way less risky. The best teams in the league, they don't have top 5 draft picks. Even the Bills. They took Josh Allen at 6 in 2018. They were a playoff team the year before he was drafted. They were a good team. Jackson, Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, 4 of the top 5. They went to good and or stable teams. Mahomes, meanwhile, 15-3 in the playoffs. That whole group I was talking about, 24-15 overall. The other guys in the top 10 who went to bad teams, their group as a whole, you got Lawrence 1-1, Murray 0-1, Burrow 5-2. They're 6-6 in the playoffs. 5 of those wins are for Murray. So the Patriots are as shaky a situation as any team you could find. By comparison, Tom Brady's AV over 21 seasons, he was a 15.5. The Patriots just aren't good enough, Phil. I think to go and spend 3, they're going to end up in the bottom half of that group in career AV if they put that quarterback in a bad spot.
Here's what I would say to you, though. About half of your top 10 there went to bad situations, and I would actually swap 2 guys there. I'd swap Herbert. I think his situation was pretty good offensively. The team might not have been good the year before he was drafted, but offensively, he went to a great situation. Josh Allen went to a stable team, I guess, but a horrible offensive situation. All that being said, about half of those guys went to bad situations, Tom. They came out the other side, and they look like pretty good players. C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. If you can find that at number 3 overall, you would take it 10 times out of 10. It's just, it looks to me more like a coin flip. And if you have the quarterback with the right kind of moxie, he could take a bad situation, come out the other side, and be okay.
What I'm driving at is, as good as they've been, only one of them has been an engine, and that's Joe Burrow, to get your team to the playoffs and win a bunch of games. And it's so hard to do that. Even though those guys can play well, they don't have enough around them to be Super Bowl contenders, as the Bills can be, as the Chiefs are annually, as even San Francisco is with Purdy, who's in that second group. Meanwhile, we're talking quarterbacks nonstop. Here's some notable guys on the move, and you can see all the places they've gone to. You see Justin Fields there, 3rd name down. He's going to go compete with Russell Wilson. That's going to be fascinating to me. And Phil, I wrote a story on Friday talking about something that Thor had mentioned to us on the pod. Go get Justin Fields, trade down, get all those first-round picks, 11, 23, and 1 for next year, and just ride with Justin Fields and Jacoby Brissett. See how you turn out. Did you think they missed an opportunity at all with Justin Fields?
I would have added Justin Fields even if they planned on taking a quarterback at 3, Tom, which I think they're still going through the process of trying to figure out. Is one of these guys worthy of that 3rd overall selection? Even if you think that there's a high likelihood of that happening, why not just add a capable quarterback, or quarterback who looks like he has high upside, for the low cost of a 6th-round pick? Just add him to the room. Injuries happen. Weird things happen. You might find that you have a guy with real value that maybe you could spin off for a pick. Maybe you get a comp pick for him. To me, it just made all kinds of sense to add him when the price was what it was.
It did. And, the Bears did make an effort. There were 4 teams interested. We don't know specifically whether the Patriots were or not, but they did make an effort, the Bears did, to send him where he wanted to go, and it was Pittsburgh. So maybe the Patriots would have been out of business anyway. Meanwhile, 6:30, tune in for our Bella Early Edition with Trenny Casey. We'll take a deep dive into the biggest sports stories of the day. Coming back after the break, we got a guy from Minnesota. His name's Alec Lewis. He's going to tell you all about what the Patriots got with their new wideout, KJ Osborn. I think you're going to like it. KJ Osborn, what did the Patriots just sign?
Yeah, a phenomenal human, first and foremost. I mean, obviously, Patriots fans are probably looking forward to me talking about his ability on the field, but I just have to start there. Like, he was and is one of Justin Jefferson's best friends. Like, I'll start there. Justin really trusts him. They came in around the same time, really learned under Adam Thielen, and KJ, he just understands the business. He understands offense. He understood the whole time he was here that Justin Jefferson's going to be the priority target. And so for him, he knew that his role had to be blocking in the run game. It had to be at times running. He would call for the love of the game routes where he's opening up space on the field for Justin. And he was always okay with that. And there were times, and I've written about this, and I enjoy talking about it because he was so open and so honest, like where he wanted more targets, he wanted more opportunity. And so as I think of why he probably signed in New England, that's got to be first and foremost.
Alec, KJ Osborn seems like a born slot. And a lot of the research you've done have indicated that. The Patriots' best receiver right now, Demario Douglas, is definitely a slot. Would he be redundant here? Is he versatile enough to go other places? How will, in your mind, these guys fit together?
versatile enough to go other places without question, and he can provide a real force in the run blocking unit. He's aggressive. He cares to block in the run game. That would be a skill set he could provide.
And that's something that Demario Douglas can't do as a smaller wide receiver, so it is complementary. Is KJ Osborn the kind of receiver who can become a quarterback's best friend?
No question about it. Just in terms of the support that he would provide to a young guy or even a veteran guy, he cares. He's aware. That's.
What about on third down, though?
Oh, no question. No question. He is also, Kirk Cousins would say all the time, like, if I can't trust Justin Jefferson and TJ Hockenson isn't open, KJ Osborn is a guy I can find on third down at the sticks, over the middle and on the edge. That's the type of receiver KJ can be.
Because you cannot have a Ferrari in the garage and be walking around looking for the keys. And that's what the Vikings have right now. Justin Jefferson's the Ferrari. In order to unlock him, you need a top-tier quarterback. Sam Darnold is the quarterback right now. How desperate are the Vikings going to be to get up to get May, McCarthy, or even Daniels?
I think pretty desperate. And from the time Kirk Cousins departed and moved to Atlanta, it seemed pretty obvious that option 1A at this point is for them to get their guy. And obviously at this point it is hard to identify which guy it is specifically, but I would be very surprised if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, a GM who derives from Wall Street, is not going to do everything he can to trade to the optimal spot where he feels like he can find his guy and head coach Kevin O'Connell's guy.
If you had to blindfold yourself and throw a dart, because that's what we're doing on March 19th, what will the Vikings end up doing? What will they end up giving up?
I think they're going to make a pretty splashy trade. That's where I'd peg it. I think they'll give up what they need. I go back to Brandon Beane's quote in Indianapolis when he was asked about trading up for Josh Allen. Brandon Beane's like, if it doesn't work, then I'm not here anyway. If it does work, then no one cares what we gave up. And to me, it's a similar spot probably right now with where GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and head coach Kevin O'Connell are. And to be able to bring a guy like that in would be pretty huge in terms of where they want to take this thing from a team building perspective.
All right. Thanks to Alec. Thanks to Phil Perry. Thanks to you for watching. We'll be out at the owners' meetings next week in Orlando. We're going to get as much intel as we can, ear to the ground, on what might be happening with the Patriots. See you in a few.